I'm Shaneen A. Harris, and welcome to Poetry Unchained, where we explore and reintroduce you to all the wonderful and diverse aspects of poetry. For instance, did you know that the relationship between theater and poetry extends as far back as 6th century BC? In Athens, Greece, a public festival was often held in honor of the Greek god Dionysus. These festivals were held in amphitheaters much like the one here at Chestnut Ridge Park. Within these festivals, competitions were given in the areas of dance, song, music, and of course, poetry. Speaking of theater, our next guest is no stranger to the stage. He has directed or performed in such pieces as A Midsummer's Night Dream, Julius Caesar, Macbeth. He's also an actor combatant, with the Society of American Directors, and he's an associate member of the Stage Director and Choreographer Society. He received his MFA and MLit in Shakespeare Performance from Mary Baldwin College, and he has a humanities degree from the University of Akron. Please join me in welcoming the founder of Rubber City Shakespeare Company, Mr. Dane Leasure.
Hello.
Hi, Dane. You know, sometimes it happens. The tongue is a little twisted.
Understandable. Especially when you get up on stage, you never know what's going to happen.
I'm sure, having been on the stage and no stranger to the stage, you have seen many things, such as the tongue getting tied, but it's been part of your job to help actors develop and walk into certain roles.
Yes.
For instance, though, have you ever realized that the role of an actor is also that of a poet, and that the lines they deliver is also poetry?
Yes, definitely. I mean, part of what an actor's job is to take the playwright's words and to share them with an audience, to add emotion to what is being said and enacted on the stage. In Shakespeare's day, the poets or the playwrights were not called playwrights; they were actually called poets.
Wow.
Because a lot of them were also writing sonnets and epic poems and things like that as other ways to make a living. So in Shakespeare's day, they were just the poets. So it was the poet Shakespeare and not the playwright as we think about it in the modern sense.
Speaking of Shakespeare, he has done a lot of works, and I think some of the most famous ones are like Romeo and Juliet, to be or not to be. But given the vastness of his work, what would you say is the one form of poetry that he's worked in that probably is the least recognized?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, obviously the sonnets are really well known. I mean, a lot of people study the sonnets and things. I don't think that people realize that he incorporates sonnets into his work. There are several plays in which he utilizes sonnets, just like in Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet, the first time they meet, they're actually speaking in a sonnet, and they're completing each other's sonnets. So it's like one person says a couple lines, and then the other person picks up, and so it's this really cool idea that they're sharing the sonnet.
I'm sorry, and I don't mean to interrupt, but for our audience,
yes.
I don't know that they all know what a sonnet is. So would you be able to help us understand exactly what characterizes a sonnet?
Sure. A sonnet is a total 14 lines, and it's structured differently than, let's say, prose, like what we talk in today, and also verse, which Shakespeare wrote in iambic pentameter, which is a series of stressed and unstressed syllables that sounds kind of like a heartbeat. It goes dee-dum, 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 dee-dum. And there are usually 5 stressed and 5 unstressed in an iambic pentameter line. So that's generally what Shakespeare writes in is iambic pentameter.
Can you talk to us a little bit as a director, the creative process that's involved from taking a work like Shakespeare and bringing it alive and making it relevant? For instance, I know that you talked about Macbeth at one point.
Yes.
And making it more relevant to the times that we're in right now by placing it in a rubber factory. Can you talk about that process a little bit for us?
Absolutely. So part of my job as a director and especially an artistic director for the company is to really think about how does this piece speak to the audience that we have coming to see it, and not just to do a show just for our sake to do a show, but to do something that might be relevant or might be moving for someone. Actually, Jim Sloviak and the New World Performance Laboratory have been working on a trilogy of plays centered around Rubber and Akron called the Devil's Milk Trilogy. And seeing the work that they've been doing, I was like, how can I have a conversation as well, something that is Akron-centric. We are the Rubber City Shakespeare Company, and we take that name upon ourselves. So how can we make this something that our audiences could attribute to and could understand a little bit more. So we took the idea of Macbeth and we put it from its traditional sense of Celtic or Scottish, and we made it that these are people that are Scottish immigrants that live and work in this rubber factory, and that is the idea that Scotland, it's more like Scotland rubber, and that is the idea behind what they are doing in the play. So it really helps the actors, I think, get a better understanding, because then they kind of pull in more ideas and are like, well, okay, if we're saying it there, how can I use this to, inform my character? We use tires in the show. Our witches actually have a tire cauldron. That's what they use, because that's what they've been working on in the factory. So they use all the things. Our fights are done mostly with weapons and things that you would find around a factory. So wrenches, crowbars, things like that.
That sounds dangerous.
There were a couple times I was like, maybe not so close to the audience there.
Right.
But I mean, and it's finding ways to take plays. I mean, there is something to be said about doing Shakespeare in its traditional sense and in the Elizabethan sense, and doing it in those type of periods. But there's also something to be had about a show that uses a concept like setting it in a rubber factory, and how does that speak to the audience that you have, and creating a conversation, which I think is the most important part.
Speaking of conversation, would you be willing to do a little bit of Shakespearean poetry for us?
Oh my goodness, yes. So I have a few lines that come to my head. So the first one obviously is the most famous, to be or not to be.
Yes. And would you like to stay sitting or would you like to stand? Which one are you more comfortable with?
I will stay sitting for right now. I might feel the urge to get up, but I think sitting is good. So, to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. I totally went blank on the rest of it.
To be, maybe not to be.
Right? I'm gonna say maybe not to be. But it's just, and it's moments like that you think about like some of the most famous, like "Oh Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo?" And thinking about Macbeth, there is the "If it were done when 'tis done, then best that it were done quickly." And so it's just that repetition in the language, the words that he uses that just really it grabs you. It pulls at your soul a little, because you think about how the words are linked and how he uses them to tell the story, but also it resonates within you.
Speaking of telling the story, you sent me a little bit of Macbeth. I'm assuming this is Lady Macbeth's character.
It is.
She's kind of wicked. And it sounds like she's really trying to hurt somebody, this Duncan, pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I have been challenged here to read a little bit of Lady Macbeth.
Yes.
So we'll see how I do. If my little bee friend doesn't leave me.
I know, I'm going to say you're
okay.
Swarmed by a bee.
All right. Here we go.
Okay.
The raven himself is hoarse, that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here, and fill me from the crown to the toe top full of duress cruelty. Make thick my blood and stop up the access and passage to remorse, that no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose nor keep peace between the effect and it. Come to my woman's breast and take my milk for gall, you murdering ministers, wherever in your sightless substance you wait on nature's mischief. Come, thick night, and pall thee in the dunnest smokes of hell, that my keen knife see not the wound it makes, nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark, to cry, hold, hold.
I love it.
I'm officially a Shakespearean poet.
Right, and on the stage, and it's excellent.
Oh my gosh. So you know what? In the minutes that we have left here, why don't you tell us, some of the things that you have upcoming for Rubber City Shakespeare Company, or how we can even find out more information?
Yeah, definitely go to rubbercityshakes.com or go to our Facebook page. So it's just facebook.com/rubbercityshakes. or give us a call at 234-252-0272.
Dane, thank you so much for joining us
you.
today and teaching us about Shakespeare, poetry, and of course the sonnet.
Yes.
In our audience, if you actually would like to share a sonnet with us that maybe you've written or that you just want to recite, if you send in a 1-minute video clip to Shaneen at Shaneen A. Harris, you never know, you may be selected for our community spotlight. Remember, I'm Shaneen A. Harris, and you have been watching Poetry Unchained. Remember, poetry is a language of relationships, so until next time, be good to yourself and to others. Thank you.